I'm sure some of you have seen the bumper sticker along the way that says, "Insanity is hereditary. You get it from your kids." The truth is that, as the kids can attest, we also get it from our parents. You know, I have to tell you, growing up, my dad drove me crazy. You know, there would be times that something would happen, somebody would do something, or I'd get upset with somebody because of something they said, and I would be really angry with them, and I was justified in my anger. I was the victim. And my dad would say, Dave, actually he would say Crockett, because that's what he called me most of the time, Davy Crockett, you know. Crockett, did you ever stop to think of what was going on in them? And I hated that. I hated that. You know, I was justified. I was the hurt. I was the victim here. Oh, no. You have to think about what's going on in the other person. Can you imagine what they're going through if they would have acted like that or said that or done that? What my dad was saying is that we needed to be compassionate. I didn't want to be compassionate. I wanted to be angry. And yet, you know, as I started to ponder what might be going on in another, it changed things. It changed things a lot. You know, and my dad has been gone for a long time now. But more than a few times along the way, I've had to stop and think, Dave, have you stopped to think of what's going on inside of the other? That they would have said that or done that or acted that way. Okay, Dad. You know, but it is a strange thing, compassion. In ninth grade, I bought a New American Collegiate Dictionary, which I still use. And the thing that I always loved about that dictionary is it always gives the root words that tell us where this word came from. And the word compassion comes from two Latin words, cum, which means with, and patior, which means to suffer. It means to suffer with. It's not pity. Unfortunately, the New Translation uses the word pity, and nobody wants pity. That's not what it means in the Greek. It means compassion. And that's something very different than pity. It means that I understand and I share the suffering with another. Cum patio, compassion. And I love that because it gives us a whole different image of Jesus. Jesus, Matthew tells us, is the compassion of God. He's the one who suffers with us. You know, that's an important reality. The first reading from the book of Exodus, Moses is instructed by God to tell the people, remember what God has done for you. You know, and it is an amazing thing that these Hebrew people who had been wanderers, God chose them out of all the peoples on the earth to be special to him. A holy people, a royal nation, a people set apart. They were his own. He chose them out of all of them. And they were nothing. They were just slaves. And he chose them, and through a series of miraculous events, brought them out of their slavery, gave them freedom, and brought them to the mount. Having parted the water, they've seen so much, they've experienced so much already. You know, don't forget what God has done for you, what God has gone through to show how much he cares for you, that you are that special to him. Remember that. Oh, you know what God has done for us, how special we are. And that's really the importance of what we celebrate. That you and I, you know, you thought you came here today because it was your idea. No. Don't pat yourself on the back. You know, you might hurt yourself by trying to reach too far back. No, the reality is that God invited you here. God invited you to come and share in his love, in his mercy, in his kindness. He reveals that to us again and reminds us how special we are to him, that he cares for us that much, that he would come to us, that he would speak to us in his word and then come to us in the Eucharist. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, every now and then I say, well, Lord, you don't understand. You know, you don't understand what's going on. And I think, oh, yeah, you came down to earth. You gave up a good-paying job like God, and you came to share our humanity. You became like a little infant, helpless, vulnerable. You became that to share our life from its beginning even to its end. No matter how difficult that end may be, you came to share it all, our hopes, our sorrows, our trials. You came to share it all. You know exactly what we go through. You know, that's the great mystery, that he would come and do that. But that's what St. Paul reminds us about, that while we were yet sinners, while we were undeserving, he came to share our life and even gave his life for us so that we would be his own. You know, that's how important we are to him. That's how much God loves us. And then he gathers us here so that he can give himself to us again. You know, you and I are going to come forward. We'll put out our hands, and the one who made the universe, who comes to us in the form of bread and wine, will place ourselves in our hands, and we can do whatever we want with that gift. As vulnerable as an infant, he makes himself that again and places himself in our hands to do with whatever we want, in hopes that we will cherish the gift and recognize how special we are, that he would want to dwell within us. There was another priest years ago that I worked with, and he was talking to the second graders in their preparation for First Communion, and I always loved what he said. You know, that receiving communion, receiving the Eucharist, was the way that the Lord showed his great love for us, that he wanted to come to us and come inside of us so that he could hug us from the inside out. You know, what a great image. He so loved us that he gives us himself. You know, Matthew tells us that Jesus looked on the crowd with compassion. He saw their struggles. He saw their difficulties. He saw how their life seemed so empty. And he reached out to them in mercy and compassion. But he sent out the 12. And again, today would be a good day to talk about those who work as priests and deacons and religious, and, you know, those who serve in the ministry in the church. But the truth is that part of the reason why we are all here is because we are all called. There's more than 12. There's 1 billion of us in the world. And he tells us, and it's that line at the end that always gets to me, the gift you have received, give as a gift. That you and I who come to be reminded of God's great mercy, God's great compassion, who are filled with that gift, are then sent out to be that gift to one another. To be the gift of God's compassion to a world that desperately needs to see love made real. My brothers and sisters, you know, you may have thought you came here because it was a good idea to go to church today, or, you know, well, we're not playing golf until 11:30, so I've got time. You know, the reality is that it's God's invitation that brings us here. It's God's invitation that invites us to share in his love, in his mercy, his compassion. And then, given that gift, to take it to a world that desperately needs to see it. Now, it's amazing. It truly is amazing how much God loves us. That God would come and share our life in hopes that we will share his life, not just at the end, but with those in need of that gift, that will share that willingly and be a sign of God's compassion, God's kindness, God's mercy to a world that desperately, desperately needs to see that. We're very fortunate, and hopefully the world will be blessed because of our good fortune.